evening. Today is September 17th. Got that right? 2025. I hereby call the Sherborn Board of Health meeting to order at 7:03. Given this is a virtual meeting, open meeting law requires that board members announce themselves. We'll do so by alphabetical roll call.
Carol Beardsley present.
Steve, you're muted.
All right, Steve Constantine present.
Julie Dreyfus present. It looks like that is it at the moment. Sarah, if
Who's joining the meeting right now?
Rebecca is.
I just admitted a phone number. I'm not sure if that's hers.
Pause for a second. Rebecca, if you are joining the call, we are announcing our presence at the start of the meeting. Please announce yourself.
Looks like that.
Maybe not. Okay. Sarah, Sarah or Steve, if you see her come in, please make sure we pause to recognize she's joined.
Oh, here she is.
Oh, Rebecca, I see your face, but you're muted. We need you to announce your presence. You are muted, Rebecca.
Hi,
Okay.
it is me. This is Rebecca Honeywell signing in.
All right, thank you so much. All right, do we have any items to be added to our agenda that were not reasonably anticipated 48 hours in advance of this meeting and need to be or should be addressed prior to our next meeting?
I might have one. We received something from Jeannie Guthrie, an email sent to the ZBA by Bob Murchison regarding the Washington Street Homes project. And the next meeting of the ZBA is the 24th, I'm pretty sure, next week. We don't have a meeting before then. I went through some points that we could consider. You know,
It would be an item for
issuing a
discussion.
memo and yes.
Sure. Why don't we, and is the hearing potentially closing on the 24th, or they have a deadline?
It seems uncertain, but potential.
Okay. So do I have a motion to add discussion of comments relative to the comprehensive permitting hearing for Washington Street Homes to the agenda?
Today? Are you saying today, or are you saying next week or the following meeting?
It's an amendment, a proposed amendment, an unanticipated amendment to the agenda based on the receipt of an email from Jeannie Guthrie in regards to responses to the letter that we had sent for recommendations to the ZBA regarding waiver requests. And the ZBA will be meeting prior to our next meeting and potentially closing the hearing. And so if we want to discuss the comments, we have to add it to the agenda. All right. So there is a motion. Was there a second?
Seconded.
Okay. Vote by roll call.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Julie, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Honeywell, aye.
Okay. All right. We have a number of scheduled hearings today, beginning at 7:50. Until then, we have agents business and other business. that we can take first. Mark, do you have
Yes.
a preference under your business?
We can go in the order that they are presented if the board so wishes.
Sure. So first would be 7 Nason Hill Lane.
Yes, and that should be quite easily. The Permit Extension Act that was approved by the state allows this one request for a renewal to be done automatically, but I wanted to present it to the board just so it's official. But I would recommend the plan be renewed for another 2 years. And based on the Permit Extension Act, there's limited need to collect a fee or an additional permit and so forth. So this one falls into that criteria. The board had seen a previous one that we had about a month or two ago. So my recommendation would be for the approval of the renewal within the requirements of the Permit Extension Act in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Will you repeat what the permit is that we're extending the permission for?
For two more years, Rebecca.
Of what? What is the
well,
permit?
Both the well and the septic system, they were both approved about 2 years ago, and permits, and the well.
I understand we're extending it for 2 years. Which exact well and permit are we extending?
7 Nason Hill Lane.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry, I didn't understand.
All right. Any further questions for Mark? All right. Do I have a motion to approve the renewal of the septic and well permit for 7 Nason Hill Lane in accordance with the Permit Extension Act?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
All right.
So the
Next-
next item, I know Steve and I have talked about this, and he will have to unfortunately remove himself from the agenda. Not from the agenda. He can't. I won't speak on behalf of him, but I know it's related to his property is what I wanted to say.
So Mark, yeah, I think I can participate. I just can't vote. Is that correct?
Okay, that's fine. I'm not for sure, Steve. I just don't want you getting in trouble. I'm just
Right,
trying to-
absolutely.
So
I think you
Now, what is
recuse your.
the definition of recuse? Are you, if you own the property, do you have to observe, or are you allowed to participate? Does anyone know the legal definition of?
That is a good question. My understanding is if you have any conflict of interest, you recuse yourself from that particular item, but that does not waive your rights as the property owner to participate as the property owner. So Steve basically takes his board hat off and puts his resident hat on only.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would, thank you. I actually, I was interested in clarifying that. Thank you.
But yes, technically he will not be participating as a
But
board
he
member.
can
in the
talk
discussion.
about it because he's the property owner, so it's as if he's in the room with us, or he is in the room.
Yeah.
But he's totally fine
Just-
to talk.
Just like any other property owner, he
Yeah,
can represent
yeah.
himself as the property owner. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good distinction. Mark, do you want to go ahead and
Sure.
introduce this?
So on this property at 30 North Main Street, they did apply the appropriate topsoil cover over the system, but for the final cover over that, which would be usually grass seed, they decided to use wood chips, and I question that based on moisture retention as well as, the fact that evapotranspiration occurs when you have vegetated top cover, such as grass in most cases. Some people have used wildflowers. And that brought a more or less discussion between the engineer, Dan McIntyre, as well as Claire Golden at the DEP. And with all that said, the board was directed by Claire Golden at DEP to make the decision on our own at the local level. So, in my view, usually bark mulch more than wood chips can retain moisture and could be lessening the viability of the septic system to be able to have evapotranspiration. In most cases, wood chips, if they are used, from what I read from the engineer, are for systems that are often some distant area and not part of the yard, so they just decided on another system to use wood chips. And in this case, the wood chips were available, so the decision was there. Steve has indicated already the crabgrass is growing through it, which is actually a good thing. But again, I was being cautious to make sure, to give the best benefit for the septic system. And we do have, I don't know if Dan McIntyre's email is on this agenda, but he did respond and he goes on to talk about evapotranspiration as well. The most important part that we got from the state was that there's a requirement to have a 2% slope. So that has been maintained. You'll see this isn't the as-built, but Dan McIntyre has provided an as-built that shows there is a slope over the system. The higher portion is near the distribution box. So that has been conducted and maintained. It's just if we're going to look at allowing wood chips or bark mulch, we're going to need to, in my view, specify that one, they need to maintain that area so deep-rooted plants don't grow in, because if you forget about a septic system, sooner or later, you'll get deep-rooted trees growing in. So that's one concern I would have versus a lawn that is typically mowed. But again, that could be an issue too if they're not maintaining that grading and the grass growth. The other issue is obviously the evapotranspiration and how much bark mulch is going over, and how much moisture can be maintained. And more importantly, could water start pooling over the septic system, which will allow it it prevents it from oxygenating and so forth, and allowing for that evapotranspiration. And so, unfortunately, the state did not want to correspond to any directive and asked at the local level it be resolved. So that's why it's on the agenda.
So, Mark, there's nothing explicit in Title V that says that wood chips are permitted as the top cover over a system, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
And in terms of precedent, has the board, to your knowledge, allowed this in the past?
No, they have not.
Okay.
To my knowledge, I don't know of any that I remember that was allowed.
Your knowledge extends back further than the rest of us, so we're going to count on that.
That's fine.
Can I ask a question?
Can I finish up, Rebecca, and then I'll be
Yeah,
happy
of course,
to
of
see
course.
the
Sorry, I
board.
can't see you, so that's why I'm.
No problem. How about I'll announce when I'm done talking? That'll help. So were there site-specific circumstances that necessitated the use of wood chips over the system? Like something that was unanticipated, that created the use of wood chips as the best option?
And are you asking that of me?
I'm asking that of you as the agent, but I would
Sure.
certainly welcome the property owner to also if he has a difference of opinion.
Yeah. So when I went on site with the applicant, Steve, we visited the site for the final grading and the final part of the process within septic system inspections. And I was unaware they had put wood chips over it. And I explained to the applicant, Steve, that I'd have to look into it because it was the first time I've seen it. And I brought up the section in Title V that talks about the top cover not being tailings or clay, which that's not the case. They used loam here. But the top cover over that was the concern, and moisture retention was my concern. It still would be, and so it started the dialogue with the DEP, which also started the dialogue with the installer, Curtis Septic. So indeed, I was not aware they were going to do that. I did understand from the applicant that this was a convenience factor since they had bark mulch or wood chips available on site, and that's why they decided to utilize that.
Sounds good. Sarah, could you zoom in on this plan on the right-hand side under general notes? I specifically want to look at note number 3. This is not the as-built. It says as-built notes. I think this is the as-built and its pictures. I'm sorry, Sarah, you're gonna have to zoom right in. On the far right side, there's a section called general notes, and it's number 3 that I specifically want to make sure folks can read it. So and I'll read it because again, I know not everyone can see their screen. So it says installers shall verify existing conditions and immediately report any discrepancies to the engineer. Now that is a standard process that we have in town, right? Site
Right.
conditions can be unanticipated. If there are minor changes that need to be made in the fields, that happens. If the system was designed in one way and that is not what the conditions are, then that's a big redo. But in general, right, if there are site-specific conditions that necessitate the change of a plan, that happens. And that's not what is happening here, right? If there was no site-specific conditions. And then looking at the second sentence within that number 3, no change in plan elevations, locations, or materials shall be done without approval of the engineer and the Board of Health agent. So, and as you stated, this was done without approval of, my understanding is you as the agent, and my understanding based on reading Dan McIntyre's email, it was not pre-approved by him as the engineer. And so what I would suggest here is we have a 2-part question. The first is the kind of science-informed policy part, which is, are there circumstances when the board would allow something like wood chips to be used as top cover over a system? If so, what are those circumstances and what would the maintenance look like, right? That's one
Correct.
piece. The second piece that actually preempts that question for me is a process question. As a matter of process, we do not allow installers to change the elevations, the locations, the materials. This is a fairly standard general note without consultation of the engineer and the agent. And yet that has happened in this situation. And now we're being asked to approve that retroactively. As a matter of process, I think that is a slippery slope. And you do not think that we should go ahead with that and approve this.
Can I ask my question? Sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I told you I'm done speaking. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Oh, thanks. Are you done? Because I just
Yes, I
didn't.
am. I'm sorry. And I told you.
Oh,
I
that's okay.
wanted to miss it.
Yeah, I know. Thank you very much. I have a question, and that is there well, could he just do it now? Like, is there a reason that it's not possible, or that there is, as well, Julie already mentioned that, but I was just curious, is that something that would be possible? Because maybe we just say, could you just finish doing it as we had approved? And then we don't even need to vote on anything. We just need to ask you to do it unless there's a reason that it's not possible.
I think she means loam and seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
As mentioned by Steve, I haven't been out there since, but there is already crabgrass growing through. They must use a lighter coat of wood chips, so that's a good thing, to see that vegetation is starting to grow there. It will help for that evapotranspiration. So it most likely, in the long run, will decay. I think it's just a matter of process since the state has now left this in the Board of Health's hands. So what I would say is we would probably need to go case by case, or at least set a policy or a standard for what we're dealing with here. And so I would suggest that in most cases, if it's going to be done this way, that conditions be set before the use of wood chips or mulch are applied over as the top covering.
Daryl. You don't have to raise your hand, Daryl. You're the chair too.
Okay, I just wanted to make it easier, if it makes it easier. So something that stood out in Dan's memo to me was about perhaps this preliminary layer is not going to be problematic, as Mark noted.
Yeah.
maybe it's, it is allowing vegetation to come through. That could be helpful as nutrients for future vegetation. But it reminds me of a situation, this is a little tangential, but where when we've looked at various septic systems in the past and someone had a choice between going in two different directions and maybe the variances were different on repair systems for those different directions, we did tend to favor, all other things being equal, systems that could be gravity fed from the house and the tank to the leaching field, because now you're not relying on having backup power available in the event of a storm or some other problem with a pump system. And this, to me, the issue he raised with the wood chips is if someone started with wood chips and the typical management method for wood chips or mulch is to reapply it every year. And he felt that that could lead to trouble because it would keep the soil moist and also reduce the oxygen exchange, et cetera. So then that requires people being educated about that issue. And, it just makes it a little bit more complex to manage over time. So part of me wonders, is this a one-time occurrence? Or is it something that would lead to, kind of repeated applications because it seems like it's an okay thing to do now, therefore it'd be restored over time? And that would make me feel differently about the use of the chips.
Okay. I'm hearing from the board, Rebecca asked the question of could the wood chips be removed, and could the system be loamed and seeded as was in the original plan? The answer to that is yes. Daryl is talking about what I'm referring to as the science and policy portion of this, which is this an appropriate way to cover a system? I think we all agree that this would require further analysis. This would not be something that we permit for general use. And in fact, we would have to kind of look at this and then consider the circumstances that it would potentially be allowed and the maintenance, and then it would have to be in a case by case basis. What I will continue to emphasize for me is that in terms of process, this is not how we conduct business, which is we don't have changes in a plan that happen like this, and then someone comes back to us and asks, can you please approve this after the fact, when it was explicitly noted in the plan that that was not to be done. And I think that is a very dangerous precedent. So my suggestion would be this, and then I'd like to hear feedback from Daryl and Rebecca, is that I think if this was the discussion prior to the covering of the system, that would be different. But given that it's already been covered with wood chips, that it's a different position now. So I would suggest that they remove that, loam and seed it. And again, as Mark noted, you do not have to put grass on there. There are many other vegetative covers that are shallowly rooted that you could apply, as long as you make sure that you do not get woody shrubs and trees growing in the system. And then at a future discussion, I think we could examine whether or not we would like to allow wood chips over a system, and then we can weigh any of the science-based elements for that and any policy that we would like to bring forth as a result. So that would be my suggestion. Checking to see, Rebecca, is that concurrent with where you are, or do you have a difference of opinion?
No. I think that I would just say, we would appreciate it if you just proceed with the original approved plan, unless there's a reason that that's not possible, in which case we should discuss it at that point. But it sounds like there may not be any reason that it can't proceed as originally planned, and then we don't need to. doing.
Do you want to confirm that with the property owner?
Yeah, that's actually was the question. I wanted to
Yeah.
ask him the question originally. Sorry. So did you want to tell us, would it be possible to go ahead with the original plan? Is there a reason that you wouldn't be able to? Only because the reason that, as the agent and everybody were alluding to, the main, it turns out that it's not only aesthetic, it's also functional, that there's grass on top of the septic system, because it adds um, it adds capacity to handle the septic material, in addition to having the qualities that don't later lead to complications like the deep roots and all that other stuff. So it has a aesthetic as well as a functional benefit. And would it be something you would be able to do? Because it would obviously be simpler if we could just proceed with that original plan.
So yeah, I can. It is something I can do. What we would have to do is rake off the wood chips, bring in additional loam, and then seed it again. What I'm hoping is I'd also like, and again, I know we're between. I'm not speaking for the board now, but when it comes time for me to speak, I'd like to make a short presentation and show you some pictures.
Oh, sure. Daryl, do you want to give your 2 cents, or would you like Steve to go ahead?
I'd be okay with him going ahead, and then we could circle back maybe and combine comments, perhaps influenced by what he presents or not.
Sure. Steve, go ahead. And are you asking to screen share?
Yeah, could I share?
Should be able to, Steve.
Okay. Let me know if you can see that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so just real quick, and let me kind of back up a little bit just so folks have an understanding of how this came about. So Curtis came out, put in the septic. They're towards the end. They noticed that we had a lot of wood chips, because my son and I go through a lot of wood chips that we put around our 70 or so some trees that we have in the orchard area. They said, you know what? Instead of putting grass on top of the SAS, what you could do is use your wood chips, and it'll probably save you a couple $100 in grass seed. They're the experts. As far as I was concerned, they knew what they were talking about. So I went with them, and that's what we did. So for the pictures, as you can see, what we're looking at in the back that's where the SAS is. That's where the leaching field is. You can also see some of our wood chips that we have from the right-hand side. So what we'll do is we'll walk towards that, okay? So now we've walked to the edge of the leaching field. That stick on the right-hand side, that represents where the distribution boxes are. One of the things you can notice is you can see the wood chips, but you can also see that quite a bit of grass has come through. So it is taking what their weeds or whatever it happened to be is taking underneath there. So at this point, I want to say maybe a third of it is already covered with grass. So I'm going to move forward again. So on the right-hand side, that's the vent pipe. Okay, and again, you can see the hang on a sec. Again, you can see the wood chips, but you can also see the grass on the other side. So I wanted to make sure that folks had a visual of what happened and where we are at this stage. The other couple of things I wanted to talk about is this is from Curtis Septic, and it's from Andy Curtis. Andy seems like a very knowledgeable guy, and Mark, I think he's got like 30, 40 years in the business. So I asked him if he could give me some examples or talk about this a little bit. He sent me a quick email saying, here's a list of items he's done. Granted, they're not in towards closer to Boston like we are, except for maybe Wayland, but these are all septics that he put together that he put wood chips on.
None of these are in Sherborn.
None of them are
Correct.
uninsured.
Yep.
No,
Okay.
no. And then let me hit it one more time. And this is Dan McIntyre's email. And again, he starts off, he can't find a prohibition for using wood chips over the leaching fields. And I highlighted the bottom part. Bottom line is he doesn't see this a major detriment to the functioning of small residential systems covering with wood chips or mulch. So those are the, I also did additional research, and you can find that it goes either way. I think Mark brought it up best. He said it's a case-by-case basis, and I know we're not here to set some kind of policy, but if you've got a leaching field and you've got it right in your front yard, you're probably going to put grass on it. You want it to look nice. If you've got a leaching field that's out back in the woods or out back closer towards Jameson Field like mine is, you really don't care about how it's going to look. It's you can use wood chips and something like that. So yeah, you're going to find examples of both. You're gonna have a little bit of an argument back and forth, and that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to kind of explain how we got to this point, and also a little bit of the research that I've done into it. That's it. Do folks have questions of me on any of this?
No, but I'll say seeing the growth that's taken place there makes me think that it appears that vegetation is able to grow. I don't care whether it's grass. That's not important. It's about something that will hold the soil in place and keep the cover from being eroded. So we do want protection of the system, and I think system owners do also, because otherwise it means bringing out more equipment and materials to replace whatever has been washed away, getting the rivulets like a little mini Grand Canyon. So I guess for me, the question, I agree with the process, that this makes it a bit of a slippery slope on process. If I look at it in a, what's easiest in terms of practicality for moving forward is, can the chips that are there now be left in place, and additional vegetation of whatever sort? Weeds are just unwanted plants. They're valuable in and of themselves. So, can something grow there, maybe encouraged by some seed of some sort, and eventually the wood chips will degrade and will provide some reasonable nutrients for the vegetation. And then a question for Mark is, if this takes, who knows how much of the growing season we have left this year, but if this system were to remain like this over the winter, is that going to be a high risk of damage to the cover integrity?
Sure. And I don't believe it will. I think what will happen is more crabgrass and weeds will grow through the springtime. And before you know it, you won't even know there was wood chips there. So the pictures do speak volumes when it comes to the fact that a light coating was put on, not a heavy coating. But again, I'm concerned that at least, not concerned, but I would ask the board put conditions that no more wood chips be placed over it, because then you're going to create that harder packed situation like Dan McIntyre noted in his email, and that this be allowed to get natural growth. I had someone that used wildflowers. It took 2 years. So, I mean, we can leave the condition on the certificate just to state conditional to mature vegetation, and the time isn't the issue. I think it's applying more wood chips could be an issue, and it could create, in the spring we'll find out if it created any ponding. That would be the only other concern, but you can see it's pretty well sloped And so I would hope no ponding would occur. Those are the issues, ponding and preventing evapotranspiration is the two that would be concerning. So this may look like a fully vegetated area in a year or two, and I would ask it
I,
be the
I,
condition.
I don't, I mean, I know, I thought that this was a good time of year to plant seed. What about just adding a little bit of dirt on top and planting seed on top of that? And then let the, let the wood chips become mulch, and pretty soon you have grass instead of just weeds. And then you end up complying with making it nice for the future tenants or owner or whatever it's being sold. But then it complies with the original permit, and then everybody's happy. I don't know. It seems like if it really has a functional effect, which it sounds like it does, maybe it won't cause damage, but why not just, I don't see why we aren't just saying, go ahead with the original plan, because otherwise we're never going to have any plans that ever get enforced, because every single person changes their mind halfway through a project because something is easier. And nothing personal. It's not personal, and I apologize, not meaning to be insensitive to you, but I just feel like we permitted this project originally with the intent of having a system that would work. If I remember correctly, DEP had even written us a letter saying they didn't really think we should go ahead with this approval to begin with. There were some questions about and discussion points, so maybe it wasn't ideal, and so maybe we should keep it working as best as possible and just go ahead with the original plan, because it doesn't sound like there's a really, really difficult problem that is interfering with the ability to comply. That's me being sort of an idealistic board member proposing that.
The mulch could be considered the starter fertilizer for future grass seed. So, I mean, applying more grass seed, I don't know if it will take, but this is the right time to be planting. I don't know if there's enough bark mulch to prevent it from getting in there, but if there's ever, outside of this drought we're having this fall, but if there's ever a time to apply grass seed, it's usually at this time of the year.
I'd also note that, again, I don't think we require grass. We require
Correct.
stabilizing
Yeah.
vegetative state. So the grass seed is not the magic thing to me. I do agree that, again, slippery slope on process, but maybe does this force us to be explicit with future folks that bark mulch, unless as part of vegetating the surface, is not allowed. If somehow it's determined that it's particularly good for establishing vegetation, I don't know that one way or the other right now. Again, it will over time certainly enrich, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you, Mark. It's the continual adding of mulch that is the issue that I think was highlighted by the engineer that caught my attention.
So from my standpoint, I did not plan on adding additional wood chips to this. I just figured wood chips is the initial layer. And then after that, whatever weeds or grass comes up. But I can also get a bag of grass seed and throw it on here and see if that helps as well. I'm not sure if we really need to have dirt or not, given what we're seeing come through, but be more than happy to just add some additional grass seed to this and see what comes up.
I think that would be good. I mean, then we aren't really, it's not, I don't know. I don't think it's a huge like financial burden, but then it would make me feel better anyway, because it'll work better, maybe, hopefully.
And with the light coating of the wood chips, it shows that the majority of the soil below the wood chips was the required soil, the required topsoil loam. And that's probably why the weeds are taking so fast.
Is there a thickness issue created, like a too thick layer over the system, Mark, created by the wood chip?
I would worry about ponding below and trap water, as well as the system not being able to breathe in the seasons where it can. That gives the system more longevity when you can have that evapotranspiration from the vegetated materials. So I would say if there was additional wood chips put over every year, you're preventing the concept of not concept, the evapotranspiration process.
Okay, I was thinking more as it is now. Has it exceeded the thickness, or are they still okay on the thickness?
I did not see them put the wood chips down, so I don't know if it's an inch or
Okay.
two, or if it's 6 inches. I don't know.
Mark, I measured it. It's somewhere between 2 and 4 inches at different parts
Okay.
of the leaching field.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, yeah, that's a little thicker than I expected, but okay.
I don't mean to interrupt the conversation. I just wanted to let everybody know we are approximately 6 minutes out from our first variance hearing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Okay, so are we, I think one of the points that I feel like is unclear in this conversation is what was the specific approval when the board made an approval for the system expectation that was going to be put as over the system. There is the 12 to 24 inches of top cover over the system. I don't know, didn't look to see exactly what it was for this system. And then there is the stabilization of grade through vegetation, which is typically done with 6 to 8 inches of loam. And then most folks put down grass seed because that's easiest, but that is not the only option, right? It's vegetation. That's not woody shrubs or trees. Are we saying, I mean, I think if we functionally allow this now, we are saying that that loam and wood chips can be used interchangeably. And I'm not comfortable saying that until we've actually adjudicated this further. And again, for me, I have a fundamental process issue of when a plan is executed differently than what, in my reading of the plan, I don't feel that it is acceptable for an installer to change that, especially without the engineer's knowledge and without consultation with the agent. Like that is a fundamental process that we have followed for as long as I've known. And so my position is, even though functionally this might actually turn out to be fine, the process issue preempts for me, and I would not be okay approving the use of wood chips for this circumstance. And I would like to have a conversation about it later. That is my stance, but I'm going to let anyone else on the board go ahead and make a motion because I may be in the minority.
No, I actually think that that is an important question. It's right. If we're uncertain about how this is going to perform in the longer term, whether or not other places have permitted it or not, I think that DEP expressed some concern about this. Engineer expressed some concern about this. And without further evaluation, and again, hearing the difference in thickness, some areas are still very wood chip in appearance, and then there's vegetation. And so does that reflect where there's thicker and thinner layers of wood chips? And that gets into the details, and we're not going to figure that out in the next 3 minutes. A little
And again,
complicated.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say there is time. There is time. The time would be to allow this to have vegetation grow over it. And if it can do it within the next year or two, we've allowed usually up to a year or two for full mature vegetation. So I didn't mean to interrupt, Darryl. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I could actually, the other place that wood chips occur is along the railroad tracks when they do vegetation management. And that can take years depending on the thickness
Okay.
of the wood chips. They count on it taking a long time
I
so
see.
that they're not out there cutting down often.
I just feel like we should just be talking about what's the best thing for the function of the septic system.
Um,
And the process. And I agree with
Yeah.
Julie that I think it's good for us to just be consistent. And if there isn't, I just think that it would be best if we fulfill the original plan, unless there's a reason that it's impossible.
The one good thing is that if they decide to rake the wood chips to the side, that can be allowed. You don't have to move them away. The side area of the leaching area is not the area that needs to have that oxygenation. So I was telling Steve, you know, if you wanted to use it as to hold up the side of the septic system mound, that's a possible, so that it'd be easier. You wouldn't have to take the wood chips back to say where the wood chip pile is. So there is that advantage, if that's what they wish to do, is to use those wood chips just for the side covering. That's an opportunity.
Okay, we, at this point, we need to be able to move on, so we can either, have a motion and a decision. I think what I also hear you saying, Mark, is, potentially this could be tabled to the next meeting because there is a conditional
Sure.
certificate, right?
Mhm.
And so then if we are shy a board member, if we felt like we wanted to have more conversation about that, we can, but how about, well, I will ask, I would normally ask a homeowner, how would you like to proceed? Would you like the board to vote now, or would you like to table this to the next meeting?
So what will, well, and again, I think there's two issues, not two issues, there's two items here. One is this specific property, and then the second is what kind of policy you want to put together going forward. Um, I'm fine. If you want to vote on it, we can vote on it today. Um, um, Not sure how we put together a motion, whether to just say that that vote would be just to allow it this one time. Given that, I don't know how you'd word it.
Yeah. Maybe I make a suggestion, given that everyone who was here for the 30 North Main will still be here later in this meeting. We have a variance hearing that is due to start now. What I suggest that we table this till we have a series of scheduled hearings. If we start these late, we will be way off schedule, and I don't think that we should do that. So my suggestion is that we table this and we return to it, and then we make the decision later in this meeting whether or not to have a motion. So that will be continued. I do want to move on to our scheduled variance hearing, which is 15 Hunting Lane, for Brian and Britt Phillips, for a replacement septic system. And their engineer is Eric Dickinson of Civilized Solutions.
Yes,
I believe we have the homeowners and we have Eric here. Hi, Eric.
hi, good evening.
Good evening. Do you want to lead off the discussion for this property, Eric?
Yes, that would be fine. Can I share my screen and pull the plan up? Or do you want to?
Sure, I will, Sarah,
Sure,
would it
I
be, is it possible, that way he can move the cursor? Oh, and I think I'm formally, I don't know if I formally did this, formally opening the variance hearing for 15 Hunting Lane for a septic system replacement.
And Jean noted that all of the green cards had
Oh,
been received.
Thank you. Thank you, I almost forgot that.
Okay, good evening. My name is Eric Dickinson. I'm with Civilized Solutions. I'm here on behalf of the two applicants, Brian and Britt, who are also on. This property is 50 Hunting Lane. It's a 3-bedroom cape. was built in 1975. It has an existing septic system in the backyard with a leach field that's, I don't think there's any record of anything being replaced, so it's 50 years old. The on-site well is in the front of the property. You can see up here, it's in that, off the, what would that be? The southeastern corner of the house. There's a very large wetland system in the back that goes all the way to the rear property line. This is a pretty large parcel. It's about 4.6 acres. In their planning for their future, they thought about doing an addition here. And in doing that, they came to the conclusion that, you know what, we might as well replace the septic system since it's old. And part of that process, that thought process was, you know, we'll add a bedroom while we're at it, which is completely understandable. So given the buffers, there's not a lot. Like I said, the properties are pretty far apart and these are large parcels. I did my testing in this area right here. Mark and I did 3 test pits. We found groundwater at about 3 feet. And found groundwater at 3 feet. So we, what was I gonna say there? Oh, so we automatically have that variance that we can't find, that we found groundwater within 5 feet of the finished grade. The system is going to be a pumped system. I use trenches. The only variance that I would have then is the 5 feet to groundwater. I originally, when the letter went out, I was going to ask for the reduction. But since we are using trenches, the traditional stone and pipe system, I discussed it with Mark and we ended up raising the system a foot. So it's, we now have the 5-foot separation. So the only variance being requested is the 5 foot to groundwater. That is about all I have right now. Is there any questions?
Where is the existing system?
Oh, sorry, it's in this bubble cloud right here.
Ah,
Yeah.
this seems like,
And there's the existing septic tank is right in this area right here. So
okay, there
septic,
it is, I see.
yeah.
Yeah. This seems pretty straightforward to me. It's a significantly rounded system, but it,
Yeah.
it creates the 5 foot of separation, which I appreciate under the system. I have no questions, Eric.
Okay.
Anyone else on the
Yeah,
board?
And given the setbacks from wetlands and from the well,
Yes.
the location makes sense, even if there was, I very much doubt you would find 5 feet to groundwater closer to the wetland, maybe closer to the well, but that's problematic. So I don't think there's
Yes.
much choice, given existing infrastructure and conditions.
So,
Other members of the board, Steve or Rebecca, questions?
I'm just looking at the plan. I think it looks pretty straightforward. Looks like the existing septic isn't a concern. The location of the new one isn't going to infringe on anything. I think I don't see anything wrong with it. I think it's a good system.
just mounded.
Is the original one mounted?
No, it's in the ground. So it technically, after we did our testing, it is in failure. It would be in the groundwater. So this is definitely an improvement. It's probably why it lasted 50 years.
All right. Rebecca, were you done with your comments?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The homeowners, do you have any questions or comments for the board?
No.
Not at this time, thank you.
Sure. And are there any abutters to the property that have questions or comments? Anyone else? I don't see any hands. I just want to make sure I'm not missing people. No, okay. Shall we move on to the variances? Can I have a motion to approve a variance to section 8.02 to allow the SAS to be in an area with less than 5 feet of natural grade above high groundwater?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Steve Constantine,
Daryl
aye.
Beardsley. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Oh, you're going out of order, Daryl. Okay, you want to go alphabetical? Go ahead to start, Daryl.
Oh, I thought you said alphabetical at the beginning, so I was trying to follow that.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Daryl. We'll start with Daryl and then Steve.
Okay,
Go ahead, Daryl.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Right. And that is the only variance. So I now close this hearing. Mark, are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they are, and I will say the engineer did his advanced work to locate this location. As you can see, he stayed away from the well and the wetlands, so no waivers or variances were required for either one. And I do recommend approval conditional to the garbage grinder prohibition deed restriction.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed septic system conditional to the receipt of the garbage grinder deed restriction?
So moved.
And I'll
Oh.
second.
Oh,
Second, and friendly amendment, Daryl, did I miss something?
Yes, no,
Yeah.
just garbage grinder prohibition deed restriction.
Garbage grinder prohibition, I'm sorry. The garbage grinder, friendly amendment to the minute taker to the garbage grinder prohibition deed restriction. Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
That's everything. All right. Thank you, Eric, and
Thank
good luck
you.
to you, Britt and Brian.
I'll
Thank
stop
you.
Thank you.
sharing. There we go.
We are now 10 minutes ahead of our next variance hearing. Eric, this gives you a break. Do we want to, we can either finish up 30 North Main, or we can move on to other business, and because we can conclude some of that in the 10 minutes we have. Any opinions?
I don't know, do you think we can wrap up 30 North Main in some way in 10 minutes?
Yeah. So how about I will make a motion that may or may not be supported. And my explanation is that I fundamentally think a process comes first. And I think that in this situation, very practically, we might choose to adopt a policy that allows the use of wood chips under certain circumstances with certain maintenance techniques. But I do not think that the way that this is unfolded is a way that the board would support going forward. And so I move that the board require the wood chips over the SAS be removed, and that the system be loamed and seeded with a vegetative covering of choice.
So moved.
Rebecca, do you want to second that, or does the motion
Oh,
pass?
yes, I will second that.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes, I thought she was.
There's only
seconding
3 of
it.
us, I know.
Yeah, right.
Right, hearing is there further discussion from my other 2 board members? Hearing none. We'll go alphabetically, Daryl.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Yeah. And then I would also suggest, I'll ask Sarah and Mark, we should bring this back before the board, specifically the use of wood chips as a covering over the system, or to originally seed if people want just weeds to move in. I think that there are potential applications for this in town. But I think that we need to evaluate this based on its merits and how we would approve its use going forward. So at some point when we have time, we should look at that. Okay, we still have
I
7 minutes.
agree with that.
Excellent. Why don't we move to, we have a temporary food permit for approval. Sarah, I will see if you want to pull that food permit up. It's for Feel Good Food for an event being held on November 2nd. I don't know what the event is.
I'm sorry. There might be a miscommunication. The event is actually scheduled for September 28th.
September 28th.
Correct.
Okay. And either Mark or Sarah, is Tom recommending approval?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know what the event is, Sarah?
Yeah. It's the fire open house.
Oh, the fire open house. Okay. Thank you. That makes a lot more sense.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the temporary food establishment permit for Feel Good Food for the fire department open house on September 28th, conditional to all applicable laws?
So moved.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Darrell Beardsley, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Is Steve on here?
I'm on. Steve Constantine, aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All right, why don't we go to minutes, because I think we still have time to check that off the list. We received from our minutes clerk the minutes from August 20th. I had a couple of amendments to the draft. I think Sarah has already added them in, which is amazing.
Not in this specific version. I can pull up the version
That's okay. I can go through, I don't have it in front of me. For 40 Bogastow, I noted what we had asked the homeowner to do, which is functionally to remove the wall in the hidden room and reduce the room count to 11 is what he had agreed to. In the case of, what was the other one?
I have it right here. If you just
You wanna?
2 seconds to pull up the
Sure.
edited version.
It was for lot 465 farm. In the draft, it admitted the submission of the letter from Deshang Wang, and so I added that was submitted to us because it was referenced in the rest of the discussion, and I thought it was important to add in that detail. And then my only other edit was a grammatical edit. Did anyone else on the board have substantive edits of the draft?
Nothing major. I'm just checking which ones. I added proper titles of the board members at the roll call of board members, co-chair, and vice chair. Hold on. A very slight modification of wording about which things might have been applicable on lines 106, 107, but it was really just a slight shift of the wording. I think it's what was intended. And I included the reason I recused myself from item 5, that being that I'm an abutter, and that was it. So I will send those along if that's acceptable as edits.
Sure. Steve or Rebecca, did you have any substantive edits, anything beyond grammar or typos?
No, I did not.
Steve? Did you have any substantive edits to the draft?
No, I had a chance to look at them. I thought they all looked good.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the August 20th, 2025 minutes with the noted amendments?
Julie, very quickly. Oh, I apologize to interrupt. I don't know if you can see the messages in the chat.
No, so I will.
Okay. The Moores were present at the meeting.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
That should be added in if they were present. I trust, I believe that they're already on the meeting. If they were
Yes,
not
that is
present
who
at that meeting, that
messaged me.
they would note, okay. So we should add that in. It's possible that that was forgotten. The Zoom provides that to the minutes clerk. I should note. Go ahead, Daryl.
I'd like to mention that, Sarah, I can show you how, but it's possible as being on the administrator account, you can see who was logged in separately. It's hard to see in the recording itself, but there is something, a level, and I can show you where that is. If you,
Sure. Thank
can't
you.
find it. So, and it doesn't always, you know, sometimes if it's a phone number, we don't know who it is necessarily, but it does make it a little easier.
Make those adjustments. Thank you.
Yeah. And since we have 1 minute to do this and then we'll finish our motion, I will note that historically, while the chat is open, none of the board members actively monitored the chat. Now that we have an administrator, she will probably be way better at it than we are, but it is not part of our official record. And so if public comment is invited and someone wishes to speak, you'll still need to raise your hand. The chat will not capture your comment. All right, so I believe we started a motion to approve the August 20th, 2025 minutes with the amendments detailed. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right, and we are right on time for our variance hearing for 5 Powder House Lane for PLN Realty. And the engineer for this again is Eric Dickinson. Eric, do you want to share your screen again?
Yes, that would be great.
That would be great. And I will officially open the variance hearing for 5 Powder House Lane. And can anyone confirm that we've received all of the green cards?
Yes,
Perfect.
you did.
Thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay. Can everyone see that?
No, we see an index here.
No. Is it okay now?
We are still seeing an index like you were trying to open the file.
Oh,
And if need be, we can, Sarah can always pull it up if they're in.
how's that? Is that okay or no?
I,
Still the same?
does anyone else, any other board members, are
No,
you seeing the plan?
I'm seeing a directory.
Yeah, I
Maybe
see the directory.
if you
Let me close
stop
that.
sharing and try again.
Let me close all of those. All right. Okay. Let me try it again. No, that's the wrong one.
Julie, I can try to open it as well.
I have it pulled up.
Yeah, you can. If you want to do that, that
Whatever
would be
you, yeah, whatever Eric prefers.
fun. You can do it. Yeah, why don't you? I'll stop.
Why don't, yeah.
I don't even know where I left off here. I'm just clicking on everything.
No worries.
Okay.
Sarah's very good at she'll point whatever part you need or zoom in as you need it.
Okay.
Do you want to go ahead and introduce
Yeah.
the property?
Yeah, so the 5 Powder House Lane is it's an office building behind Middlesex Savings Bank. Powder House Lane is the street that divides the plaza with Middlesex and the Fireside Tavern. I always want to call it the Sherborn Inn, but it's a building behind the Middlesex Savings Bank. It's an office building. It's from it was built in 1965. It's 3,000, I can't remember, it's 244 square feet, I believe.
Yes.
It's on a cesspool, which is kind of to the south, the middle south part of the building, the southern middle, yeah, right in that area. It has a well. It's very, very close to the western rear corner of the building. It's an on-site well, right there, yep, up there in that area. The owner is interested in selling the property. This was originally tested by my predecessor back in 1999. He found a lot of sand and gravel, which is common in the downtown area. He had a chamber system designed. I think it was a pump to a chamber system, or maybe it was just gravity. I can't recall, but it did not have the advanced treatment like this system does. This is the microfast to geoflow, so it's really advanced treatment of wastewater. We do have, as you know, some public wells down in town there. One of them being, you can see the radius. It's for the Fireside Tavern. That radius was given to me by an individual at the DEP, the Drinking Water Program. It's 198 feet from the well, and that's based on the design flow for the inn or the restaurant there. The other public drinking supply or public well is for the ice cream place there. I forget the name. What is the name of that place?
C&L Frosty.
C&L Frosty. Yeah. It always, okay, yeah. So it's for C&L Frosties right there, and that's the design flow is only 100. It ends up being only 100-foot radius for that one. It's obviously has a lot smaller design flow than a lot less design flow than what would be at the tavern. So given those two radiuses, I stayed out of those buffers with it, and I also used an advanced treatment system, as I mentioned. The owners are going to be selling the property, and they would like to keep the existing well, which is off the corner. It's functioning fine. They just would like to not spend extra money drilling another well if they don't have to. So all my variances are basically they're in regard to the on-site well and a filter to groundwater, which was because of it being sand in the test pits. If you want, I can go through those variances.
Sure, or we can.
Or you guys.
We can pull them up and we can go through.
Okay.
The board, I mean, the board has seen the variances. Why don't we, do you want to take questions at this point? Or maybe
Yeah,
we should.
actually, I have a question on, I think you guys might have changed the regulations or modified them. I'm requesting that variance to 1.2, section 1.2. It says to allow the use of a bed design to provide 100%, whatever. It's a pressurized system, so is that, I noticed in the rules, is that because it's a pressurized IA system, is that no longer a variance if I use that type of a system?
That is correct, Eric.
Okay, so okay.
We chatted a little bit about that, Eric and I
yeah,
it's under builder's responsibility where
yeah,
you can have a leaching bed if you're using a pressurized system, and this is a pressurized system.
okay.
Well, you're pressurizing it but then it goes to drip design. I think it'd still be safe to ask for the waiver, Eric.
Okay.
It's pressurized, but it's a drip design, so it's kind of in the middle of the road there. So I don't think it would. I would recommend to the board it be approved, and I would still keep it on there because geoflow is pressurized to some degree, but also a drip dispersal. So I'd still recommend it being approved.
Okay.
Or being reviewed and determined.
Yeah. The second variance, if you want me to go through them, was to 8.02. That was for the SAS to be in an area with 2.8 feet. This was a filter that was done by Paul back in 1999. It's 2.8 feet with the filter adjustment of natural grade above the high groundwater versus an area where the groundwater is at least 5 feet below grade.
And if I may, Eric, or Paul
Yeah,
Collier was the engineer back then.
yeah,
He did do Frimpter on the test holes that groundwater did not show, but in deep hole number one, we did see some redox. So
okay,
groundwater appears to go up a little bit as you get towards North Main Street. So, but that's why we had him do the Frimpter on the other two deep holes, just to see if it was close to what we found in deep hole number one.
okay,
That's fine. It was confirmed back then.
okay. Then the next one, section 10.1A, it's to allow the soil absorption system, the drip, to be located 75.9 feet uphill from the on-site well versus the required 175. It's due to the site constraints and the well buffers. The microfast system, as I mentioned, provides advanced treatment of the effluent.
And I'll interject to note that the 175 is greater than what's normally 150 because the perk rate is so fast. It's
Yes.
less than 2.
That's correct, yeah.
Just for anyone who's curious. Go ahead, Eric, keep
And
going.
then, okay, yep, section 10.1A again, to allow the SAS to be located 128.9 feet downhill from the abutters well versus the required 150 feet due to site constraints in the on-site well buffer. Now, this is the CNL Frosty well. Again, I mentioned the advanced treatment of the microfast system. It's still outside of that 100-foot buffer, to the Title V buffer or the Massachusetts DEP drinking water buffer. Which if you go to the second sheet, you'll see that he gave me an email. The second page of the second plan sheet, you'll see a graphic that shows the buffers. It's from the DEP website.
Sarah, in the meeting document, it's actually loaded as a separate file.
Oh, okay.
Titled 5 powder. I'm just letting Sarah know she just has to switch to a different document to show that image.
Okay.
And I saw in that email between you and Mike McLean, it
Yes.
looks like he mistakenly thought that that this building had almost 6,000 square feet, 5,700, which is not what the plan has. So I want to confirm that this building has 3,244 square feet.
Yes. So Paul, he was back then. They were thinking about adding additional square footage.
Okay.
That's a good point to bring out. And
Yeah.
Eric did correct that. We confirmed that with the assessors records that it's the 3,000 plus.
Yeah.
And so actually the well radiuses would be reduced based on the use of the building not being increased or added on to.
Mhm.
And that letter, it's hard to read, but the buffer zones are shown right there. And if you enlarge that Mass DEP letter, you'll see what was written by the DEP representative. If you
Might be a
can,
little bit,
there we go.
yeah.
He shows the buffers and the calculations.
Yeah, the numbers in front of those every well has its own number assigned to it. When you see the 198, that's the tavern well, and then the other one is the CNL Frosty.
And the buffers are just below that.
Yeah.
They're in colored, like pink colors and so forth.
Do you want to review the Title V upgrade?
Yes, I can go through those now.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sarah, you could probably it might be
I can-
easiest to show that on the cover letter. I believe it's on the second page of the cover letter.
Yeah.
Here it is. There you go.
Okay, yep. These are the Title V upgrade approval variance requests. The first one is section 310 CMR 15405-1D. It's to allow the SAS to be located 65 feet from the on-site well versus the 100 feet. Like I said, the existing well is currently functioning properly, and the proposed Title V compliant SAS is an improvement over the existing cesspool. I'm suggesting a well water analysis be performed per state and Sherborn requirements.
I'd like to note that 65 feet is different than the 75.9 in point.
Oh,
I can't
is it a
remember
typo?
what number it was.
Oh, yes, you're
Okay.
right.
And the
Yeah.
75.9 is what's called out on the
Yeah,
plan.
sorry about that. Yeah.
So we'll just, when we read through it, we will note that. No problem. And Mark, just a point of, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Eric. A point
Yeah.
of clarification, Mark. Have we typically added the quality analysis as a condition when that waiver has been granted?
Yes, and we can follow Title V on that. They require bacterial testing, nitrate, and there's one other one too, and it might be nitrite. But I would recommend that be a condition if the board so wishes to approve this request. And I'm in Title V right now. I was trying to get the actual testing for it, but
Sure.
it's built into Title V.
It's built into title. Thank you. And Eric,
Okay.
sorry to
No, it's
derail
fine.
you.
I'm
And
glad.
the last upgrade request.
Okay, yep. Sections 310 CMR 154051J to allow a reduction in the requirement of the 12-inch separation between the inlet and outlet tees to high groundwater, provided that all boots or pipe joints are sealed with hydraulic cement and installed with watertight sleeves, and the tank is proven watertight. This is a result of the FRMTR analysis.
Okay. Let's go to questions from the board. And then if the property owner is here, we will certainly entertain questions or comments, and then we will turn to public comment. I think if I can lead off, I will say, Eric, this is, I think, one of the most challenging sites I have seen in my very short time here on this board. It truly is difficult.
Yeah.
This is not a critique of your plan, because I think you've done a good job with a very difficult site. This is more for my personal education. At any point, did you consider a tight tank? I know that DEP says a tight tank only if there are no other options available. And I was just wondering if that ever crossed your mind.
I did not, no.
Okay.
I know that the CNL Frosty system is also a microfast and geoflow as well. So
Okay.
I think it's probably the best system for that downtown area. I know it's problematic because the buildings are so close and everybody's on a well, so it's I personally find that the microfast system to be the best.
Okay, that sounds good. Members of the board, do you have questions? If you do, speak up, because I don't know if we'll see all the hands.
I don't have a question. I have a concern, and maybe it's something we need to think about for the longer term. I think, again, given, as you pointed out, given the constraints of everything around there, which is to be expected in the basically more densely developed portion of town where there isn't the leeway for establishing greater distances between features of the development, that this is pretty tough and it'd be hard to do much better under the circumstances. However, I wonder if we should contemplate for the future, not for today, that I don't want to forget, is advising people about perhaps additional testing given the distances to the wells, because although there's the advanced treatment, it really targets nitrogen. There might be some BOD reductions and that kind of thing that come along with it, but it also would beg the question about what other kinds of chemicals might be used by the establishments there that wouldn't have the benefit of as much filtering and distance, what have you. That's for another time. Right now, this is the kind of thing we look at. Again, this is a more challenging situation than most. But it seems like we need maybe a little something extra so people know what they could do, help improve the situation.
Just a friendly reminder that we do have a third hearing at 8:30. It is currently 8:28 p.m.
Yeah. For all of those here for the petition for appeal that's scheduled for 8:30, we're going to be running a few minutes over. Please bear with us. Other members of the board, questions or comments?
So just to understand it a little bit better, they plan on upgrading this office building, which is the reason for this? Is that correct?
Yes, well, they're planning on selling it.
Oh, they're selling it. They're not,
Yeah,
but are they also, I thought I heard that they were gonna try to get some additional space in there as well.
no, that was the original approach back when in 1999. They were going to try to add more space.
Okay,
But-
so now that they're
Correct.
just
Now
trying to sell it, that's all they're trying to do. They just want to
Yes.
make sure the septic's upgraded so that it conforms to Title V.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board? Is the, I don't see any, is the property?
Why does
owner-
it not have to conform with the town regulations?
It,
I don't. I think with those buffers, I don't think you would have any area on that property.
But it still should comply with the town regs. Because it's they're public buildings. So
Yeah.
it's gonna apply to it's gonna be a semi-public water supply. So it has to comply with town regulations.
I don't think in any way was Eric saying it doesn't,
Uh,
other than the variances that are being requested. What I think Steve was noting is this is an existing cesspool, and at the time of property transfer, that is an automatic failure.
Oh, yes, no, I understand that. I'm just saying that we as a board have the obligation to the town, especially since that part of town is particularly challenging. It's wet, and not only would contamination affect, potentially affect abutters, but future use of that site will be public and semi-public septic systems. So it's going to affect, restaurants and, public buildings. And so the town is going to be required, or the future owners are going to be required to have safe, potable water in public spaces. And so it's going to be even more important that the Board of Health be quite careful about helping them to meet the regulations in order to be able to have safe drinking water in those public buildings. Because it's going to, unless they're planning, nobody knows what the future owner will do. Maybe they'll convert it into a home, but it's likely that in the center of town that they would have, future public buildings. And so we would need to guide them, and they're going to need to design septic systems that protect the drinking water.
It's
Any
currently,
change in use would have to come before the Board of Health anyway.
Yeah,
So
that's.
there would be
I
another
was just pointing out
opportunity to
the
review
Title
that.
V. Yeah. And I was thinking that because we know they're public buildings now and they're going to probably be public buildings again, it's going to end up needing to be more than Title V. It's going to need to meet the local regulations because it's a very wet location. It's tricky. Sorry, I'm just.
I know that wasn't there a committee to I'm going off on a tangent, but to look at different alternatives to sewer, kind of the downtown area.
Sewer and or water, but
Yeah,
there are no easy answers
Yeah,
at all.
lots of people would like to.
None.
It'd be so great if we could do that. It would solve a lot
Right.
of problems.
yeah.
When the board gets to the Title V local upgrade approval, number one, you may
Yeah.
want to look at the well water analysis. It's in accordance with Title V 15.303C. You may want to note that has to be done on a routine basis. It's up to the board if you want to ask for a yearly analysis. That's what I would suggest to make sure that water's safe through the years.
I like that as a practical way to address the uncertainty about it.
Agreed. Let's go to public comment. I see Tom Trainer has had his hand up and waited patiently. Tom, go ahead.
Thank you, and I'm so glad to hear that the board and the agent are interested in doing water testing there, because I think many of you know, and I'm speaking as a member of the Groundwater Protection Committee, we have a real serious water quality issue in that whole neighborhood. The majority of the public wells have nitrates in the 2, 3, 4, 5 part per million range, well above background, and some have PFAS levels concerning area. So I would be careful here. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, I'm glad to see on the plan the zone 1 distances for the nearby public wells. What's missing is the IWPA, or the interim well protection areas, which are more like 300-400 feet. So all of that property is well in the IWPAs of the adjoining public wells. So it's a real difficult situation, of course, for the property owner and the engineer to site any kind of septic system on that property. So I'd just be very careful with this, and annual water testing would be important. And I hope if the property owner is here, would consider taking a very close look at the water quality data they get, and look into treatment systems if they don't have one already. Thank you.
Thank you.
And for the record, I
It's
believe
challenging with it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
this is currently the approved use is for office space. Eric, am I right on that?
Yes, that is. You're
And
correct.
so if a future owner were intending a different use, that would both have to come before us and the ZBA.
That is correct. And the present building is the square footage that's noted. So this is a direct replacement to the on-site septic system. It's a direct replacement, not for new construction. So they would not be able to add on unless they could meet new
And
construction.
it is replacing a cesspool, which is
Right.
extremely important. It would be nice to have all cesspools in town replaced as soon as possible, but we do have regulations governing that now. The other thing is, it's difficult when this is something that's evolved over time. In the past, before the understanding about groundwater was the same as it is now. And also, right, I don't think I can add to that. We've learned a lot since the time some of these properties were built, and so it's not for us to take away those properties in their entirety and abruptly by saying it's not meeting current regulations. So we're charged with finding the best path through.
Other community questions or comments? If so, please raise your virtual hand. And if you can't find your virtual hand, you can also raise your real hand. I am not seeing anything else. Sarah and Steve, I'm not missing anything, right? All right, why don't we move ahead with voting? So do I have a motion to approve a variance for section 1.2 to allow the use of a bed design to provide 100% of the required SAS system?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, abstain. I'm just don't know enough about it, so.
Do I have a motion to approve a variance to section 8.02 to allow the SES to be in an area with 2.8 feet of natural grade above the high groundwater versus the required 5 feet?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Do I have a motion to approve a variance to section 10.01A to allow the SAS to be located 79 or 75.9 feet from the uphill on-site well versus the required 175?
So moved.
Seconded.
Hearing no further discussion.
Actually, maybe I would do a little discussion. Do we want
Okay.
to put any kind of condition
I
for?
would, I was going to suggest
for
that,
speed
Daryl.
testing?
I think you want probably the same condition that you see under the Title V local upgrade approvals. And that would be to require a well water analysis, and I'm suggesting annually to meet the requirements as noted in in Title V, which is 310 CMR 15.303C. That's
we should-
15.303C.
So process clarification, Mark.
Yeah.
So we want to add that in under this variance request and not under the local upgrade for 15.4.
I would say both, just to be on the safe side, both. They're asking, be the same condition.
Okay.
It's up to the board. That way it's not, I would suggest both. I think it's more important here, but also it can be under the local upgrade approval as well.
Okay. So we'll take that a friendly amendment and amend that yearly and water quality analysis in accordance with 310 CMR 15.303C.
That's correct, yes.
Be performed. All right, with that
And
amended
is that,
motion.
I'm not familiar with the whole list under there. Does that
It's only-
include,
It's 3 items.
or is
Daryl.
it the basic? Oh, okay.
It's the 3 items they require if you're doing a Title V inspection. It's ammonium nitrogen, it's nitrate nitrogen, and fecal coliform.
Excellent. Okay, so that is not an onerous set of tests.
No. I don't know what the board,
Financially.
and I don't know what the board wants to do with PFAS, but those are the requirements built into Title V if you're doing a Title V inspection with the well distance close to the septic.
I mean, they can always voluntarily do more. Nothing
Yes.
stops anyone from running any tests they want on their own water. But I think these are the crucial ones given the proximity to the septic. And it will be indicative that, perhaps of the dynamic relationship with the septic system, which could lead to curiosity about other parameters. So I'm good.
And if I may, to assure that that's going to be done, I would suggest, and I'll let the engineer at least discuss it, is that be also a deed recording so that any new owner understands they're required to do the annual testing. So it doesn't get lost. That's what worries me.
Okay, I think,
And that we could do with the approval of the plan, I presume.
Yes.
Okay.
Do I need to restate the amended motion, or is the board comfortable understanding what the motion is?
I'm comfortable.
Okay.
Good.
We had a motion in a second, am I right?
I could
Believe
flip it
so,
again.
yeah.
Okay,
That's what we're
all
gonna
right.
do in a second.
Okay, and then, so let's vote via roll call.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve a variance to section 10.01A to allow the SAS to be located 128.9 feet downhill from the abutter's well?
So moved.
Seconded.
Further discussion? Friendly amendments? Hearing none.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
That is local variances. We now move to the Title V local upgrade approvals. Do I have a motion to approve local upgrade to section 310 CMR 15.4051D to allow the SAS to be located 75.9 feet from the on-site well versus the required 100 feet, and to require, we're requiring, right?
Yes,
That a water quality test be performed on an annual basis in accordance with 310 CMR 15.303C.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. Again, friendly amendments,
I have a question on that one, if I can.
please.
Does that have to be, do you want that test done before the issuance of a certificate of compliance for the septic system? Before they sell the property? Should that test be done before before the construction commences, or before a certificate of compliance for the septic is issued?
Oh,
Or just when it
Mark,
changes hands?
I thought there's something about the test having to be done when a well is less than 100 feet
yeah,
from the septic.
that is correct.
That
That's
it's
that section.
required, and I can't remember the timing of that.
The
That's
timing, yeah,
It's at the time of sale. That's why
okay,
I
Okay.
believe what we're doing is utilizing the language in Title V for the required testing if you're transferring.
Mhm.
But in this case, because they're asking for waivers from the board, you're requiring it to be done on an annual basis. Now, the question Eric just had was, should it be done before or after the certificate? Where does the time start? And I would suggest before the certificate of compliance is issued, that well test be conducted, and then thereafter it be on an annual basis from that date,
okay,
if that works.
yep.
I don't think we need to amend the motion to include that. It's on the record.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree, since it's really covered by Title V, but it's a little gray on the transfer. Exactly when is that considered our new ownership? All right, are we voting now?
Yeah, that's a good question, Eric.
Thanks.
Let's go ahead and vote. Get a
Okay.
motion.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Do I have a motion to approve a local upgrade to section 310 CMR 15.4051? Is that a J? That's J, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yep, okay, thank you. To allow a reduction of the requirement of 12 inches of separation between the inlet and outlet tees to groundwater, assuming that everything is sealed.
If I could
So
ask
moved.
Eric, is that J or I? On the plan, it looks like an I.
let me see. I'm gonna start capitalizing those, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's a J.
J, okay. I can confirm that too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
even on my,
Thank you.
I'd have to pull up, yeah, that's a J.
That was my thought, but I'm glad other people have trouble seeing it too.
Yeah,
Okay, motion has, actually, I called for the motion. Has the motion been, has anyone moved this forward?
Can't remember, so moved, so
Okay,
moved.
thank you.
Seconded.
Any further discussion? Hearing none.
And Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
And I
And,
just, if I may, Madam Chair, I just confirmed it is J. I just looked in Title V. It's J.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's just the underline that made that hard. All right, we now close the hearing for 5 Potter House Lane. Mark, are the plans ready for approval?
Yes, they are conditional to 3 deed recordings. The first one being the notice of an innovative alternative system being utilized. The second is for a garbage grinder prohibition. And the third would be the requirement for an annual water test in accordance with Title V, 310 CMR 15.303C on an annual basis. That's to commence prior to the certificate of compliance being issued, if that makes sense. Thank you.
Makes sense. Can we take Mark's statement and move that rather than me
So
restating?
moved.
Seconded. Any further discussion from the board? Hearing none.
Carol Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
This was a hard one.
Yeah.
And Eric, reach out if you want to review that third deed recording, because it is
Okay.
something a little different from the others, but it'll be pretty much the same format that we use for the other deed recordings.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. For everyone waiting for what was our scheduled 8:30 time, I am very sorry that we are 20 minutes over. That was a particularly challenging variance hearing. All right. Give me 1 second to get organized. We have confirming that we have everyone here who really should be here. Yes, we do. Sarah, I'm leading this off, correct?
It's up to you, whatever you prefer.
I'm happy to go either way. I don't want to steal your thunder if you wanted to.
Go for it.
Okay. Sounds good.
I can answer any questions, procedural questions that may come up.
Sure. So on September 2nd, the board received a petition to appeal the board's decision made on August 20th, 2025, approving a revision to a previously approved plan for Lot 465 Farm Road. Per our regulations and Article 2, which reviews our appeal procedures, why don't I go ahead and just read these? For the board to hear an appeal, there are 3 criteria, one of which needs to be met for the appeal to be heard. An appeal will be considered only under the following conditions. 1, that there is new data to present, or 2, that there are at least 3 additional professional consultant opinions submitted, or 3, that different situations or conditions exist since the Board of Health's former ruling. Now we have, I don't know if you want to pull up the petition live. So what we are going to do first as board members is first we have to determine if one of these 3 criteria have been met in the submittal of this petition before we open the appeal hearing. Here's how I'd like to proceed. I'd like to have the petitioners. Actually, I want to clarify how people want to be addressed. Brian and Mary, would you like to be addressed as Brian and Mary or Ms. and Mr. Moore?
Brian and Mary is fine, thanks.
That's good. And while I'm at it, to the
I'll go with King.
we're gonna do one of Brian or Mr. Moore, but we'll go with Brian. And for the permit holder in this case, which is Bob Murchison. Bob, you've historically asked us to call you Bob, but I want to confirm that that is what you prefer in this setting, or would you rather be Mr. Murchison?
How about the awful developer? Bob would be great.
We'll go with Bob. And to my fellow board members, please respect the wishes of our of the folks involved here. So we're going to proceed with the petitioner, Brian and Mary. We have a very narrow scope as we first review the criteria, and it is to demonstrate that new data is being presented. For our board members, I would like to review that we have sought guidance to clarify pieces of this process. And so to understand what new data means in this setting, that would be information that was not present at the time of the board's decision on August 20th. Information that was not knowable might have been existing but could not have been known to the board at that date. Does that make sense? Or information that may have been present but might not have been able to be presented at that time. Does that make sense to my fellow board members? I'm looking for recognition, and also to the participants. A fairly narrow legal scope that we're trying to keep this to. So we will have Brian and Mary present what they believe, their claim of new data. We will then go to Bob. You'll be able to present your take on if the criteria for new data has been presented, and then we will go to the board to adjudicate that decision. Brian and Mary, go ahead.
Thanks, Julie. I have a statement I was going to read, and then I think Brian's going to make some comments, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. All right. So thanks for hearing our appeal tonight. We want to reiterate our appreciation for what you guys all do for the town. We know there's a lot of time and effort that goes into this volunteer role. We do believe that your vote on August 20th approving the septic plans for 65 Farm Road, Lot 4 should have included a condition that the applicant provide an EHIR, Environmental Health Impact Report, to ensure that there'll be no negative environmental or health impacts from the project on wells and wetlands. We did appear before this board back in November 2021 with a similar appeal, and we were told that the board could only act on what was before it. Well, here we are nearly 4 years later, and the Farm Road project has now permitted Lot 2, Lot 3, Lot 4, Lot 5, with remaining land on Lot 6, currently marketed on MLS, referenced in an order from the HAC, and proposed as potential open space development in informal conversations with the town. And we've shared the new data to show that their EHIR requirements have been triggered, which is the greater than 2,000 gallons per day when we look at those collective permits. While Bob refers to your vote in November 2024, where an EHIR was not required, he did fail to refer to the 625 HAC hearing, where we understand that his attorney indicated that 8 additional units would be developed on remaining land, which would trigger the HIR. As far as we know, the 40B project has not been withdrawn. He also failed to refer you to details about informal conversations with the town, and a single one new bedroom home would trigger the EHIR. An HAC order stated that a status conference was held on June 25th, attended by counsel for the developer, the board, and interested parties. And the developers council reported that it was close to finalizing a modified project to submit as a notice of project change. Again, we do not believe or know or have information that that project has been withdrawn. Your regulation states clearly that the burden is on the applicant to provide clear and convincing evidence that their project will not have a negative impact. And we hope that the board recognizes its own authority, which was clearly noted in an select board document posted on the land development pages, where the select board says that the Sherborn zoning, well and septic and wetland protections are in place to protect the health of residents as well as environmental health. The quality and quantity of water resources are critical to both. Enforcement of these regulations are under the authority of the respective regulatory boards, not the select board or the town administrator. And it's understood that the town administrator may provide information and expert advice, but that the authority rests with the boards. The new data we provided in our appeal shows that the project exceeds the collective project, the cumulative project exceeds the 2,000 gallons per day. And we respectfully ask that you revisit your vote with an additional condition to require the EHIR. And to quote the great Yogi Berra, it feels like deja vu all over again. So I'll ask the same question, at what point will we look at the cumulative impact? We've had multiple A&R filings, 40B comprehensive permit, open space development conversations. And then Bob did request a waiver for the EHIR in the 40B, which is allowed. And I don't see anywhere in the town's open space regulations where you can require an EHIR. So I think now is the time to require it. Otherwise, we will find a loophole that we will slip through. So I really appreciate your time, and we hope that you will agree with us on this. Thanks very much.
Brian, did you want to add to that?
Yes, thank you, Mary, for those comments. I just had a couple of things I wanted to add. There was, in doing our research and looking at what was going on here, we tried to determine how the town is supposed to evaluate segmented projects. And my understanding as a layperson who dabbles in this stuff is that you're not allowed to be less stringent than the Commonwealth of Massachusetts when you're working at the municipal regulatory level. You can be more stringent, but not less stringent. And my understanding is also that one of the only places where they talk about segmentation of projects in Massachusetts regulations is in the citation that I put into the letter that has been distributed and you've all had a chance to read, I hope, where it talks about the Commonwealth views segmentation as being anything within a 5-year period. Now, this all started in 2021. We've been at this for 4 years, and we've been told time and time again, not until we have acted on or have it in front of us when it comes to talking about requirements for an EHIR. And at this point in time, I think it's indisputable that we have crossed that threshold. There are many reasons why we've crossed the threshold, but they're outlined in that letter for you to review. And the reasons, the additional comment I wanted to add was the reasons that we are concerned about the CHIR. If you want to grab an example out of what's going on at other places in town, for instance, the Fields, which had an EHIR conducted at it, the nitrate levels that have been reported have been going consistently up as recently as this day over the last 3 to 4 years. Now, that on paper, empirically, yes, okay, that we're looking at a piece of paper with some numbers. But to Mary and I and our property, it's not numbers. It's our well. It's our one and only well, and we're having a terrible time trying to figure out what to do about how to replace it, to the point where it's maddening. We can't get someone to file papers with us to replace our well. This is all new information, and I think that the threshold's been crossed. There's no questions anymore. You're going to hear a lot of obfuscation from Bob or, technicalities, but the fact of the matter is, when you look at the definitions that you just stated, Julie, about what should have been or what could have been or what must have been in front of the board at that time, the amount of obfuscation that took place during the development of these 5 parcels, all it did was cloud the waters and prevent us to see the real need for some environmental protection so that people like us, and it's not just our well, there are 6 or 7 or 8 wells, including wells that Bob sold to subsequent property owners between us and this development, that are at risk. And they should be afforded the same level of protection as us and our neighbors who have no other recourse. Our neighbors at 53 have nowhere else to put a well. They don't have 7 acres or 5 acres or 30 acres. They have like 1.0 acres. And when their well fails, they're SOL. They have nowhere to put a new well. So they're talking about treatment and systems and money out of pocket. And it's really not fair when we have this wonderful resource below us that we should be protecting. Those are the limits of my comments, and I really hope that you'll act in our favor tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian and Mary. All right, Bob, go ahead. Again, the question is, does the petition meet the criteria for an appeal to be heard?
Yeah. So Julie, you spent a lot of time earlier tonight focused on process. And so I'm going to focus on process tonight with you. And you have asked a very specific question first. And I'm assuming that you will be asking both of us to speak on other issues well, the two other requirements you mentioned, and then potentially, if the board does choose to consider this appeal, which obviously, or not obviously, I'm going to argue that it should not under the process and under the law. But I'm going to very specifically answer your question because I want to be respectful of your process. Your question is there new data tonight for the Moores to present? Okay, is there new data tonight for the Moores to present? I have seen, actually, I should say, the Moores on, as you said, September 2nd, they submitted a number of documents, a whole sheath of documents. And then they made a lot of the same comments that they've made tonight. I went through them very, very carefully. And in fact, I sent you an email a few days ago, and I listed out all of the documents and all of the meetings and all of the information that was referenced. And I can give you the dates. August 19th, 2025, the day before the decision was made on the 20th that they're appealing. June 10th, December 1st, December 15th, June 2024, 40B denial, June 27th, a housing appeals court order. Some comments that my lawyer made in the housing appeals court in June of 2025. They reference, again, the your own August 20th Board of Health meeting. They reference a December 21st, 2021 A&R plan. They reference a July 29th, 2025 A&R plan. They reference a June 2nd, 2025 notice of A&R. They reference, and they supplied you with all of these documents as well. It's quite a stack. July 31st, 2025 notice of A&R. May 7th, 2025 Farm Road real estate listing, which is absolutely correct. It's in the public record. And what I will point out to this board is that nothing that they gave you in their notice of appeal has a date after your decision. And so it's very difficult for me to understand their argument that this is new data. Every single piece of information, data, memo, meeting, it all comes before August 20th. And I will tell you, the Moores were present at that August 20th meeting when the approval of new property lines, it wasn't an approval of a septic system, it was an approval of revised property lines for a septic system. So everything they gave you in their appeal is dated prior to August 20th. Secondly, a couple of days ago, it came to my attention that Brian delivered a thumb drive of documents to the Board of Health. I have yet to be able to see any of the documents that were submitted to the Board of Health on that thumb drive. I haven't seen them, and I don't know whether this board has seen those documents. But okay, well, so you're shaking your head, so I'm assuming, Julia, that means you haven't seen them.
That means no.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
That means no.
But importantly, and this is really important, on the second trove of documents submitted by the Moores, Brian used what I'll call a transmittal sticky note. It was a large sticky note attached to a thumb drive that is yet to be read by anybody. And interestingly, he says that he has submitted, he's writing this to the board, a thumb drive of documents, and he describes it as stuff for the Board of Health appeal. He says, I would note that, or I should say, I'm going to say, I would note that the submittal is described by Brian in the sticky as, and I'm going to quote now, nothing in it is new. That's quoting Brian. Brian gave you a trove of documents, and in it, he says nothing in it is new. He goes on to say that everything is on the town website. Well, there's nothing after August 20th on the town website. So what I am submitting to you is that there is no new data, or even if you expand the term data to information or anything else, there is nothing new before this board to cause you to consider this appeal. Thank you.
All right. Again, to the board, this is a narrow scope question. We are reviewing the petition to determine, again, at the beginning, actually, Sarah, could you pull up the first page of the petition? Or just pull up the document, it's the first page.
Also, I believe it appears that we have some hands raised.
Yep, but I'm asking you to pull up the petition. So in terms of the 3 criteria, what is noted in the petition is that this is being submitted under the first criteria, which is new data. And nowhere in this petition are Brian and Mary claiming to be presenting 3 additional professional consultant opinions. That is not within this document. Nor are they saying that different situations or conditions exist since the August 20th date. Neither one of those claims have been made. Brian and Mary, am I accurate with this? I just want to confirm. You were presenting this as the criteria for new data, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Julie, just to clarify, the new data that we're suggesting, you know, as Bob said, it's all part of the public record. It's all part of what's been presented through a series of permits and applications. However, it has not been reviewed as data in a collective set by the board. You have been looking at this in pieces because it's been presented in pieces. And I would also suggest that this HAC appeal, which we still don't know where that stands, had a deadline of August 25th, which was after the meeting on the 20th. And so that date has come and gone, but I don't know if that clarifies any more about what the remaining land use will be. I know there has been some informal conversations about open space development, but again, you know, we've asked for clarity around what the project in total looks like. And I would say that HAC deadline of 8/25, you know, was ahead of us when we had that meeting on the 20th. Thank you.
Julie, may I add one little quick comment?
Since I'm taking you as one unit, yes.
Thank you very much. Mr. and Mrs. The one in your earlier comments about process, you mentioned, and Bob's absolutely correct. Everything to just put this to bed, everything on the thumb drive was essentially all of our submittals under the 53, 55, 65 lot 3, 65 lot 4, 65 lot 5, and the 40B process that we had made, because they include all of our experts' testimonies and opinions about the loading analysis that we had commissioned from Scott Horsley. None of it was new. Okay, that thumb drive itself was simply to make sure the Board of Health had everything in their record for this one particular lot related to all the previous assessments that we had commissioned or conducted or authored. Okay, but information that the board should have or should have known about, or I believe I can't remember your comments earlier from just 5 minutes ago, should have known about would have been that the level of obfuscation that occurred during this application process did not allow the board to really see the forest through the trees, which is that the total cumulative effect of these 5 projects tripped the EHIR. The board should have seen it. They should have called on it. And it's the applicant's obligation to bring that in front of the board. And in my understanding and reading of the regulations, the imperative word here is the board shall in those cases. And so I don't see how the board has any other option but to impose the requirements for an EHR in this case. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
May I speak, Julie? Or if you want to wait till later, I'm fine. I have some more to say in response to Brian, as you might imagine.
I actually think,
Well,
I-
he's said some things that I think need to be, I can give information that Brian is looking for.
how about Brian and Mary made their concluding statements before we go to the board? I will, yes, Bob, make a concluding statement and then I would
Right,
like the board to
I think
deliberate.
due process would.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, concluding statement.
So with regard to something occurring on August 25th, and I can't for sure say it didn't happen, I am not aware of any meeting on August 25th. I did not attend. My lawyer didn't make me aware of anything. And what I can tell you definitively is that no plan has been submitted to the court. No new plan has been submitted to the court. That I know definitively. And I will just finish up by saying they have not presented anything new tonight. These aren't even new amalgamations of old arguments. All of these arguments and all of these documents have been around forever. They admit that. And they're not making a new kind of amalgamation of them even. This is not new data. All of this that we're talking about that was submitted to you for an appeal, in the words that you used at the beginning, Julie, said your question was it able to be presented on August 20th? The answer is everything they have provided, and I can't, I can't speak to the thumb drive, but Brian did. Brian said nothing's new in the thumb drive. And on everything that was submitted with the appeal, I've gone through it very, very carefully, and none of it is new. And that completes my statement. So I think we're all done and we're going to the board now. Is that right?
Can I make a clarifying comment about the August 25th? I'd like to just explain what the August 25th comment was.
Julie, what are we doing here?
All right.
I didn't say it was a
please.
meeting.
I believe you, it's actually not stated in your document. You made a comment about August 25th. Mary, please address to me
Being
what
the
happened on-
deadline is what she said.
Oh, the deadline. Thank you. Okay, so it was the deadline for the change in project proposal filing.
That the HAC had ordered
Thank
on
you.
June 27th, sorry.
For the board understands where that stands. Okay. So what I would like to do next, again, to the board members, we've sought guidance on this issue in this process. I will review it one last time to sound like a broken record. The criteria is laid out in section 2 of our appeal, that new data, which is what this is being petitioned under, needs to be either not available at the time of decision or otherwise could not have been presented at the initial hearing, right? And so that is what we're evaluating here within this petition. Why don't we go to each board member? So we're determining if in fact we think that anything within the petition meets that criteria, then we will open the hearing. If the board in aggregate decides majority that it does not, then the hearing will not occur. Does that make sense? Why don't we go to each board member for their opinion? Is there any board member who feels like going first?
I can go first.
Okay. Oh, I hope you don't have an echo there, Rebecca. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Turn this off if I can.
Yeah.
Can you hear that? No.
There, try again because there's a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I think you have two devices on, Rebecca.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to get out of this.
Just turn off the microphone on one.
Can you hear me?
Uh-oh, have we?
Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes, there's no echo now. Please proceed.
Okay. The first thing is, I think that the Moores, although there may not be new information from the Moores to the town, I also believe that there's no new information from this applicant to the board prior to submitting this 5th parcel there was no proof to the Board of Health that a cumulative impact proposed or resulting from this would be safe or not have impacts on the abutters, the aquifer, and the future resident or residents of this policy. In addition, this clearly is in violation of MIPA's subdivision bylaw. So I would argue that the developer does not have the argument that there's no change because it actually applies to him. He needs to prove to us that this is safe. And I don't have that. I don't have any confidence in that. And the reason is, as the Moores proposed in their detailed information, this adds a cumulative impact to the neighboring projects that trips our town's local regulation for an environmental health impact report. It's also true and extremely relevant, and the Board of Health has the jurisdiction and the authority and, frankly, the obligation to the town of Sherborn members who elected us into office to represent their health needs. And if another lot is put here, and I was tricked as well into thinking, not realizing that this was a cumulative, that there were cumulative impacts and that this was actually falling in violation of the MIPA subdivision statute, this is an illegal, this whole thing is illegal, and it's clear. And now I recognize it, but being naive and trusting, I didn't see it before, that this is simply a bigger project that's been subdivided. That's what the MIPA subdivision bylaw, or it's a Massachusetts general law. This applies to us. We can't say it doesn't apply to us because we are we are a town in Massachusetts. It's actually more important that we pay attention to this because the environmental impacts will have the potential to damage the natural resources, endanger the drinking water wells of abutters and the future residents of these homes. I don't think that Mr. Murchison is planning to live there, but he's planning to build these wells that have the potential to be contaminated. That's not fair. And it's our job to make sure that these wells and the drinking water are safe for the going forward. And we can't even be confident that it's going to be safe if we don't have environmental health impact reporting. That gives us objective data with which to make an assessment. Is this safe? Is it not safe? Could there be risks? What are the things that we need to think about? How can we design the project to make it a good project? It's not that we're trying to be difficult. We're just trying to make smart decisions because we share the natural resources. We should all care collectively because the entire town is affected by one little project actually could be relevant to everyone. So I think that it's good that the Moores gave us this information because it showed me that clearly this probably requires at the state level of a project change, which would trigger the MIPA review or at the very least environmental health impact reporting at our level. And so I think that it's sort of silly to make it so narrow scope because really our job is the big picture, which is how does this affect the town? How could this potentially affect everybody involved? And, I'm really sorry if it's perhaps less lucrative or something for the builder, but that's kind of totally irrelevant. Our job on the Board of Health is to think about the future of the town, the cumulative impacts over time, how does this affect every single person? It's not just one homeowner. And even then, this future homeowner might have contaminated water and who there's no backup plan. We don't have septic. We don't have, sewer infrastructure. We don't have water coming from Quabbin Reservoir. We don't even have the pipes to build a public a public water supply. So, it's a big project. It's a problem. And I think we need to take it seriously, whether or not, we got a legal advice to make it a very narrow scope. I just think that it's irresponsible of us to look at it that way, because we really need to look at under MIPA and under our our responsibility to protect the cumulative effects of projects that are in proximity of each other. And this is a wet parcel. We knew that. He knew it when he bought it. You know, why are we stressing the land? We really should be looking at it and building projects that fit the parcel. There are several of my opinions. Thank you.
All right, I'm hoping that every board member will speak. I prefer to go last. You want to go next, Daryl?
I can mention something right now, just to address MIPA, so we don't have that hanging over. I'm looking at the MIPA regulations that require an environmental impact report. And in general, MIPA is just much larger than the projects that we see in Sherborn, the projects it covers, and our EHIR is something of, it parallels MIPA, but again, here's an example of what would trigger the state level environmental impact reporting requirements. One is direct alteration of 50 or more acres of land. And I'm going to paraphrase in some cases, unless it's in pursuit of generally accepted agricultural or forestry practices. Another criteria is creation of 10 or more acres of impervious area. There's some, it's quite difficult for some of the criteria afterwards. Others include how much alteration of wetlands or bordering vegetated wetlands or other construction of a new dam. And that again is covered under Conservation Commission, and we are more, as a town, are more stringent. So that is covered by Concom. Dredging of material, we haven't really seen that. Withdrawal of 2.5 million or more gallons of water from surface water source, we aren't doing that. 1.5 million gallons from a groundwater source. So those are some of the triggers.
Daryl, of 2,000 gallons a day. So it trips our personal threshold for EHIR. And I've been reading about it too, and I'm not seeing any of the stuff you're talking about. It fits under the project. The town is small. These are wetlands. We have 100% private wells. I'm not sure you can just dismiss it. I think we need to take responsibility. That's our job. You were just elected under the argument that you were going to protect the environment. What are we going to do? How are we going to do that?
Rebecca, in no way is this about anything personal.
No, it's about protecting the environment.
We are going off on a tangent.
Okay, sorry.
We have a very specific question. I'm asking each board member to weigh in on the question. The petition that you have reviewed, does it meet the criteria for an appeal to be heard? In this case, new data. We explained our legal understanding of new data.
I think it does, because it meets the MIPA pressure. It exceeds our cumulative threshold for EHIR, and the Board of Health should be requesting environmental health impact reporting. That's our job. And
are you stating that was new from August 20th?
I'm saying that I was not aware when I voted on August 20th that this was going to take us over 2,000 gallons per day. If you look at the cumulative impacts of those 5 homes, one's an 8-bedroom home, one's a 5-bedroom home, it ends up affecting the neighbors and the downhill abutters, and maybe this person is no longer in a butter, but that's because one of the parcels that was subdivided in this big project that was purchased by this one builder actually is one of the reasons that it actually does apply to here, because they're no longer abutters because he put a parcel there first. That's clever, but it doesn't mean that it's not relevant. We're the Board of Health, and these are private wells. We don't have Quabbin Reservoir to help us.
Rebecca, I'd like to let the rest of the board members weigh in. Daryl, going
Okay,
back
so
to the
going
question that
back
we
to
defined
the
at the outset.
question of data.
I think
feel
we
like
board
at
have the
least I,
responsibility to contact.
Rebecca, it was Daryl's opportunity to speak.
Sorry.
Please
Okay.
respect your fellow board members.
yeah, I'm
Thank you.
just taking a moment to collect my thoughts, Rebecca.
Okay.
So I think we've been watching carefully to see when this project might trip the threshold for our EHIR requirements. And there are things that talk about how the project, what constitutes a project, what interrelationships constitute a project, and very important guidance that we have received many times from town council is that we cannot speculate. And so we see things on the horizon that may be coming, but we don't know their exact form and relationships to the other parts of this property's overall development or the multiple properties development. And so in my reading, we haven't reached that threshold yet. We are extraordinarily close. And what's on the horizon looks like it could potentially have bearing on that, but we haven't reached it yet. And we've been instructed not to speculate. We need to have something formally before us before we can call that. And to me, that's just a key portion. And right, it's of great concern because this kind of density is of concern to the board, which is exactly why we have EHIR requirements, why we lowered the threshold years ago. And that threshold is also used by other municipalities in the state. So it's not anything spurious. It's a very reasonable threshold. And the state uses it under Title V for other things. But
These points are totally irrelevant. We have 100% private wells. 98% of towns in Massachusetts don't, and we're the only one of two in the 495 loop. So it's completely, we can't compare ourselves to these other towns.
Rebecca, every board member gets to make
completely
their
missed my
statement. No one
point, Rebecca,
interrupted
but,
you.
yeah.
Please just allow, you can disagree, but that does not mean that you can be inconsiderate and speak over people. We ask that of public members. We ask that of fellow board members.
Okay.
There will be a point where there can be further discussion, but each board member is making a statement. Daryl, would you like to continue? Or
I think I'll conclude. I'll forego trying to correct some other statements that we just made. My statements were misunderstood, but in the interest of time, I think the other board members should have a chance to speak.
All right. Thank you. Steve, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
Okay. Hang it in there. All right, go ahead, Steve.
So I've had a chance to read the documents. I've had a chance to listen to folks on both sides of this. To me, it seems like the appeal process, I think that was done correctly, but I think the part that's failing is that it's not meeting all the criteria, especially the criteria about nothing new. So I don't think enough has been presented to be able to say this is material enough and that this needs to be included so that the appeal process can go forward. On the other hand, and again, trying to take a look at it more from a bigger picture, I do have concerns that these properties are being developed in a piecemeal type fashion, and we really haven't had some kind of a lens to be able to look back and say, okay, this is what's being planned for this area, and this is what's going to affect the entire area. And that's the concern that I have there. But yeah, it's a tough one to follow. For one thing, you really have to read the documentation and take a look at everything. But again, if the only thing in front of us right now is whether the appeal process was done correctly and it's presenting the correct data, at this point, I feel like it's not, there's nothing new. But bottom line, I don't see anything new in the appeals process. But again, trying to be forward-looking, you want to say, what else would be required to make sure that it is included in the appeal process? And I'm not sure if that's a bit of a fuzzy way of looking at things, but that's kind of my 2 cents.
Okay, that leaves me. I'm going to walk through this objectively because I feel like this is an objective question. I'm going to review what was presented to us in the petition. And so I first have to say that the background was very thoroughly and well placed in terms of a pretty extensive timeline, and I applaud the way that that was organized. It was great, especially as someone who was not here at the start of this. But looking at the background that was presented, of which Sarah has some of this up on the board, or on the screen, excuse me. And point number one, again, my criteria is, was this known to the board on August 20th, or was this knowable? And in terms of the question of, does the board have to have explicitly discussed information for that to count as being in the record? And we sought guidance on this. We can have implicit information that is informing our decision, but we do not have to explicitly discuss it in a public meeting for that to then be officially part of the record, right? And the record being things like appeals, applications, right? Speculation about what could or could not happen on undeveloped land is not part of the record. It is definitely an opportunity in the future, but it is not part of the record. So I will go through. So looking at question at number 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, none of these were unknown or could not be presented at the time of August 20th. Going to, Sarah, would you mind scrolling with me too? Going to page, going down to the next page, 8, this was one of the questions in terms of the HAC. As was stated in this meeting, while that deadline was after the 20th, we understand that there is no change in the project proposal. There was no filing of a change of project proposal at that deadline. The deadline is come and gone. There is nothing before the town that shows that that is coming back to us as a remanded 40B on the record now, right? And nor was that the case on August 20th. That was not present in the record at the time, and it's still not. So looking at 9 and 10, again, known to us at the time, as well as number 11, the fact that the lot was being described as lot 6, it's also been described as undeveloped land. The fact that that has been up for sale was known to the board at the time of August 20th. Again, that is speculative. If that lot sells and an owner were to file an application for a permit, certainly that would be on the record and would be definitively trip over our EHIR to over 2,000 gallons. Looking at 12 and 13 and just continuing on, each and every one of these points is very well laid out, but existed at the time of the decision of August 20th. And so for me, the criteria of new data has not been met for the appeal to be heard. And a couple of questions came up, including, and this is addressing Mary's question, is when would there be an EHIR? And the answer to that for me, and again, what we've sought guidance on, is speculation does not count, but as soon as any definitive action is taken, right? And right now the project, I will go back to my thought. The project is at 1,980 gallons on a common driveway, lots 3, 4, and 5. a single development of 1 bedroom will trip over that 2,000, right? And so if an application is filed, then that would trip the project over into requiring an EHIR. This is something the board is following very closely, and we have every intention of upholding our regulations. Let me just go through my notes. There was a question about if a proposal for open space is filed. I can say the way the EHIR is currently written, a proposal for an open space development does trigger the need for an EHIR. Let me go back to my other notes. Okay. And I will agree with one of your points, Rebecca, is that the intention of an environmental health impact report is to give the board data to make an assessment as to the safety of a project. Absolutely, that is the point. And in terms of when we do that, it is very, very specifically laid out in our regulations, right? It is when there is a subdivision. This is not a subdivision, right? Each of these lots has frontage. Each of these lots has the frontage required. What links the 3 homes, and again, we have discussed this back at our November 6th meeting. I went and re-listened to that meeting and read the meeting minutes. We articulated in that meeting what makes something a project. There has to be a link between properties. And we definitively adjudicated that Lot 2 does not rise to that threshold. It is not linked in any way through common infrastructure to lots 3, 4, and 5. And the idea of the stormwater was raised at that time, and the board did not acknowledge that as a link. Okay. I'm just going to see if I have other notes here. Okay, so I think that concludes my comments. And in terms of, addressing what Steve said, so I agree with Daryl that there is a definitive difference between speculation and action actually being taken. And we are on the threshold of that happening, right? And in terms of the segmentation issue, Steve, I would say the board tried to address that in the regulatory updates in 2023. All regulations and policy are incremental changes, and so I'm sure we will have improvements in the future based on our experiences. At this point, I think each board member has spoken their piece. We could continue to debate and go back and forth, but it is also 9:40, and so I think that we should have a motion. See if it is moved and seconded, and then there can be discussion. So I move that the petition to appeal the Board of Health's decision of August 20th, 2025 for Lot 465 Farm Road does not meet the criteria for an appeal hearing as set forth in Article 12 of the Board of Health regulations. Does anybody want to move that motion?
Can you say that again so I understand what's yay and what's nay?
Okay. Well, I'll try. I move that the petition to appeal the Board of Health's decision on August 20th, 2025 for Lot 465 Farm Road does not meet the criteria for an appeal to be heard by the board as outlined in Article 12 appeal procedures. So if you affirmatively move the motion, a yay, then the appeal will not be heard. If you decline to move the motion, then you are saying you would like the appeal to move forward. Sarah, am I right? I'm not getting confused right now?
Yes, at this time, the board will vote on that.
Okay.
Julie, I have to ask, are you interested in accepting public comment at this time?
The board did not open this up to public comment. I think within a hearing, we absolutely should be taking public comment.
Okay.
I think right now we are reviewing the threshold for whether or
Sorry,
not a hearing should happen.
And a comment from the applicant. Would the board want to hear that?
We're in the middle.
Appellant or the applicant?
I think, do you mean the petitioner or the permit holder?
Sorry, the
Actually, it
petition.
doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter who it is. I think the process is, there is a motion on the floor. This is, I don't think the moment that the board should go ahead and take the public comment.
Okay.
Yeah. Motion has been made. Is
Julia,
it-
I understood it that you moved the motion.
Oh, I moved the motion? Okay, I moved the motion.
Yeah,
Is there a
so-
second? Thank you.
Okay, so I would second.
Okay, now discussion for the board.
My discussion is going to be a bit tangential. I would, as I reflect on this process of us trying to watch and anticipate as to what is going to be tripped and when and under what conditions, so in one respect, I would have hoped that from the outset, we would have been able to review all of this collaboratively and holistically, but that's not how this has unfolded. And that's unfortunate. I think it would make the project resilient for all those involved, especially between neighbors and the future residents of these properties. So it's, I'm not quite sure what word to use for this, but it's disappointing, and I think it's not particularly productive, and it could have led to some creative alternative approaches to things, but that has not happened. So that's my comment. Not sounds a little oblique to the motion, but that is some of my underlying thoughts about it. That we're down to splitting hairs on things, and that we're one bedroom away from an EHIR is just makes it seem all that much more difficult.
If I can, I will tag on to one comment and then certainly would hear from other people. The fact, if this appeal is not heard, in no way does that mean an EHIR will not be required in the future. As soon as it meets the regulatory threshold where we can require it, it will be required. Anyone else?
Maybe the Board of Health should just require it just to be conscientious, because if we're only one bedroom away.
We have a black and white threshold in our regulations, and whether or not we personally agree with the regulations, they are what stands at this time, and I think it is our job to uphold them.
I agree with that.
Any further discussion from board members before we vote? Hearing no further discussion, we'll go alphabetically.
Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, nay.
All right, thank you. Thank you to Brian and Mary and to Bob. I appreciate the consideration, a respectful tone that this meeting was conducted in tonight. I know that is not easy. Oops, that's me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Julie, I've got my hand raised. I don't know if you can see it or not. May I speak?
The item has concluded.
No, I understand the
Yeah.
item's concluded. Absolutely. I understand that. I just, I
And
have a
please
positive.
acknowledge, if I acknowledge you to speak, I will also acknowledge Brian and Mary to speak.
Brian and Mary have spoken a lot tonight, and I have no
Yep,
problem with
I
them
am just-
speaking as much as they want tonight. I have not spoken a lot tonight, and I'd love to just say a few words, because I think Daryl made some comments which really struck a chord with me tonight, and I'd like to comment in a positive way. I'd like to comment on Daryl's comments a few moments ago, if I may.
Board members, do you have any objection taking one final statement from each of these participants? Okay, go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. So the first thing I would say is thank you all very much for upholding the law tonight. The law is very clear, and you went through an arduous process, and it was mostly respectful, not completely, but it was mostly respectful process. And I'm appreciative of that, and I thank you for upholding the law. What Daryl said really struck a chord with me about a collaborative process on this property. And it's something that unfortunately, and I'm not going to point fingers, and I hope those of you on the board won't point fingers. This has been a terrible, terrible process from my perspective and from your perspective. And honestly, it's been horrible for the town, and it's been horrible for the neighbors. There's no doubt about that. But in my mind, and again, I'm not pointing fingers, and it goes to what Daryl said, it's because we never could have a collaborative process about how this land should be developed, and less kind of the ultimate result, but more the process for how it could happen. And I think what Daryl said is absolutely right. This could have been a collaborative process, and I take some responsibility for it not having been. And I hope the board can look at themselves and say that they take some responsibility for, unfortunately, it not being a collaborative process. I would like to say going forward, so, there are 3 lots that are permitted now as of tonight. Lots, and lot 2, obviously, from a long, long time ago, but 3, 4, and 5 are now permitted. Going forward on the rest of the land, I would like for it to be a collaborative process. I really would like to sit down with you all and talk through things and talk about what your needs are and how I can provide them to show you that it is safe to put potentially more houses on 10 remaining acres of land in the back on Farm Road. And I really welcome what Daryl said. I welcome a collaborative process. I think it's a little tricky. Only 2 of you can get together at a time. I know that because it's a 5-member board. I know the rules all like you do, but we can do this. We can have a collaborative process and we can finish this, and it doesn't have to be incredibly painful and difficult for all of us, for me, for you guys, for the neighbors, for the Moores, for the entire town. And so I just want to kind of highlight that Daryl and I don't often agree, but what Daryl said a few moments ago about us needing to have a more collaborative process, 100% agreement with Daryl, and I hope we can do that going forward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
I agree. It is uncommon. That you and Daryl agree. That's what I mean. Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Brian Moore, 49 Farm Road, here for my 4th straight year. Mary and I are very disappointed in the actions of the board tonight. We appreciate everyone's volunteer time. We both served on boards, library, groundwater, commissioner. We are at our wits' end with the application process and the ringer that this has put us through. And I don't know what else to say. We've given you every piece of information and every opportunity to enforce the town bylaw, which is black and white. And we're very disappointed in the process. We're very disappointed the applicant hasn't been forthcoming from day one. And I'm sure we're going to be sitting here in like another month and a half going through this entire thing again. It makes me want to cry. I don't have a well. I'm going to lose my source of drinking water at my property, and it's on this board and on your decisions that happened. Hope you all have a great night.
Thank you, Brian. Okay. Let's see. Remaining, we have the amendment to the agenda. which is the discussion of, well, Bob's still here, of Bob's response to our recommendations to the ZBA and the requested waivers. Sarah, I quickly, I don't know if there's something online that you want to pull up. Otherwise, I grabbed that and I can do a screen share because I don't think this just came in yesterday. Am I correct? Oh, I think I just learned of it like less than 24 hours ago myself.
Could you repeat it?
It was an email from Jeannie
around
Guthrie.
5
to-
p.m. yesterday, roughly,
Okay.
something like that.
If not,
Sure.
I can pull it up.
If you'd like to pull it up, I can also
Sure.
pull it up.
I can go ahead and share. I hope. Okay. So for the board, as we tried to explain why this was being added less than 48 hours, is that we just received this response, as we said, within roughly the last 24 hours. The ZBA is scheduled to meet next Wednesday, the 24th. I'm pretty sure about that. And there's the potential that the hearing will close. This is just whether or not we want to review this. We can have a written statement that we make back to put on the record while the hearing is still open. If we would rather discuss this than have a comment during the hearing, that's also possible. I think they generally prefer written responses in addition to any type of an oral. So then we might want to have something written up here. Given that no one has seen this, why don't I give folks a second to read it? And I'll scroll down in a second because there's a little more. Is everyone all set? Yeah. Looking for Steve and Rebecca if you're all set.
I'm good.
Okay. Rebecca, is it okay if we start discussing? Or do you need another second?
I read it before.
Oh, okay, good. So if I were to lead this off, my comment would be in the case of existing homes where the existing home cannot meet our local regulations, we do frequently grant variances and allow mounded systems as we did tonight. In fact, we had more upgrades and waivers on the one property than we typically have. And that's simply because many of these structures were created at a time before the current regulations were in place. And it would be a manifest injustice if we made them meet every local regulation, right? When it's not possible based on the site constraints. However, we have, to my knowledge, and again, I have limited knowledge here, we have never granted variances or upgrades for new construction. And in fact, what we're asking here of the ZBA is to treat this project the same as we treat all the other new development in town. That's what we're simply asking.
And I agree with that. That's, I think, got down to 4 points. You've combined 2 variances aren't granted for new construction. There is a rationale for this. We know better now than in the past. We have a better understanding of the environmental and drinking water impacts that can result from septic system use. So it would be a step backward. So applying something that would be substandard past practices to new construction doesn't seem reasonable to me. Again, as you said about the manifest injustice of if we did not grant variances for properties that came into existence as residences at a time when the requirements either didn't exist or were different than they are now, it wouldn't be right to not allow any continued use of the property. And so then we look for the best possible outcome. And frankly, as noted earlier tonight, something was replacing, a new system was replacing a cesspool, a clear improvement over it. And we don't grant, it may seem like we grant every variance that's requested, but that's because the engineers and the registered sanitarians who have been working with Sherborn for some amount of time understand the kinds of things that the town is looking for. Also, those designers of systems work closely with the health agent to know what is generally recognized as acceptable in town, and anything in the gray area, people will then come to a Board of Health meeting to talk through options, and the board can make more clear how they are evaluating variances and options around them. So we don't want people to be coming to variance hearings and failing. So there's a process ahead of the final variance hearing that helps shape what might be happening, and there's a back and forth between folks. Because there are many different technical and other factors have to be evaluated for any variance, and they're never identical between properties. So it does take us some amount of time. And then with regard to the comment about expanding the residence on a property, we do have a provision to allow an additional bedroom. It may not be a bedroom, it may be another room of some sort, but it's the bedroom count calculation that's important. But that's only under certain conditions. It is not automatic for every property. There are things that would not permit that kind of expansion. And also, I've heard board members in times before I was on the board talk about it is somewhat of a motivation for people to upgrade their septic systems and get them into the modern era. So those are kind of other key issues that take place. And that's also why you don't see a lot of denials of variance requests, because they've been shaped beforehand through exchanges between the board, the agent, and the applicants.
Steve or Rebecca, do you have any comments on this that you would like to make sure we include to the ZBA?
I don't think we should allow variances on new construction for all the reasons that Daryl mentioned. But also, these projects are not individual homes and individual lots. So it's even greater risks and complications because more than a couple people are affected and we don't have state backup. And it's not only that, but we're contaminating our town, we're contaminating our natural resources, and we're lowering our property values. And eventually we're not going to have any way to avoid a huge, massive, costly project of putting in sewer infrastructure that's going to be paid for by the taxpayers in order to correct preventable problems that maybe are easy to underestimate, but there are cumulative impacts of all these little decisions. So that's my feeling. We're underestimating the cumulative impacts of every single variance every single time. We have to give variances when people's septic systems fail so that they don't make their homes uninhabitable. But when we have a new project, it can be designed to fit the site. And there's no excuse to just design it properly. Be smart. Actually collaborate, work together. Good idea.
Steve, thank you, Rebecca. Steve, do you have any additional comments that you think the board should include?
I don't have any additional comments for this, and I think the document's fine.
Well, this is the response from the developer, who is Bob in this case, to the waiver, our recommendations to the waivers. So it's just if we want to clarify or respond to it. Okay, I think that, nope, we have to do final thing, agenda items for next time. I think we have variance.
Before we move on from this issue, do we want to, I mean, I've
oh yes, thank you,
done some very rough notes on how to address this in a memo. Do we want it to come from the board? And if so, how?
Why don't we follow our standard process? If you've already started to draft a response, I would say as long as the response correlates with the comments that were made by the board tonight. We usually authorize 2 people to be part of the draft. I'd be happy to do that with you, just to look over, and then that way, if a member of the board is at the ZBA hearing next week, then they would be able to speak to the comments of the board as a member of the board representing. All right, so I move that we authorize Daryl and Julie to draft a response memo to the developer's response to our waiver guidance.
So moved.
Second.
Hearing no further discussion.
Daryl, I.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Okay. All right, now we go on to next agenda.
I have
Sarah,
a couple items, if I
go
can.
ahead. Please do, Mark.
Thank you. Actually, it came in the last day or two, 24 Woodland. They're looking at potentially going to request, rather, to have possibly one basement room waived. And it's what we see before. I explained that the board needs to review it. There may be a need for a deed recording. That's 24 Woodland. It's a recent building application we received. Another item is 110 to 112 North Main Street. And that there is a septic system that's been approved, but the owner of the property has indicated hardship, and I explained that it would need to be addressed by the board. They have passed the deadline to replace the cesspools. And the other one is,
I'm sorry, what was I missed the address on that. Could you say
I'm
that?
sorry, it's 110-112 North
Okay,
Main
thank you.
Street. They have
Thank you.
actually two numbered address,
Thank
they have
you.
2 houses on the property. And the other one is a placeholder, the use of wood chips and how it applies to the use of wood chips for a septic system cover.
Okay.
And I don't know when the board would like to discuss. I was reviewing ADUs while you were meeting the past hour. And so I don't know if we want to have a workshop someday or how the board wants to handle it, but that could be a placeholder as well. interesting reviewing other avenues of ADUs. There's FAQs out there as well as guidance on the state websites. So that's about it for me. Thank you.
I would recommend that for the ADU conversation, that should probably not happen at the next meeting because it is a holiday. So I think it should be an efficient meeting. And that's an important discussion that could take a long time, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's a placeholder. It doesn't have to be the next meeting.
That's a fair point, Sarah. Do we have variance hearings scheduled? Does anyone know? I believe so.
I believe we have 26 Stony Brook. It was supposed to be on this agenda, and I believe it was moved to October. I'm sorry. I like to talk to you when I'm looking at you. I believe it's been moved to the next agenda. Sarah, am I correct on that? Do you know?
Yes, we have 2 variance hearings scheduled for next.
Thank you.
Okay. Starting at 7:30, I assume.
I believe so. I can double check though.
That's okay. I mean, that's kind of usually, we don't start them until 7:30 and then space them 20 minutes apart. Okay, and as always, if new things come up, please contact Sarah so that she can amend the agenda. And you need to get any agenda items to Sarah by the Friday before the meeting, ideally. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I hear no further discussion.
Okay, sure won't. Daryl Beardsley, aye.
Steve Constantine, aye.
Julie Dreyfus, aye.
Rebecca Honeywell, aye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, good night,
Thanks.
everyone.
Night.